Anyway, so here's the board, and then what happens is it flows to these two pedals, and it flows to a loop station, which currently is what you're hearing me through on Skype. Okay, I'm using that as an audio interface.
Gotcha.
So let's talk about building a pedal board. So I'm gonna probably look it over my shoulder every so often at the screen, so I hope my camera works halfway decent.
All right.
Okay, first things first is you have to figure out, well, yeah, it's probably going to change, but let's just start from the ground up. You need a board, the actual thing you're going to put the pedals on, okay? Just you're going to keep them all organized. So you don't necessarily have to buy that first. Like, I would say buy your pedals first, okay? And then as you get, like, about the time you start migrating, you have 3, 4, 5 pedals. You probably want to get a board to put them on.
All right.
Some good companies to look at are like Pedal Train or Rockboard by Warwick. But that's, there's a lot of companies, not just them. Okay.
And they make the actual board for the pedal.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, that's not the only way to go. Okay. So, a lot of my students have made their own boards. If you go on my blog, there's a DIY Pedalboard blog you can search for. And I took examples of different ones. Like one student literally there's like a scratch and dent section in IKEA. So he took a shelf, painted it orange so it matches rig, and the shelf had lats in it, and put Velcro on it. That's his pedal board. Another student who was good at woodworking actually built sides and built like a 3-tiered pedal board out of maple and walnut. Beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Sides. Yeah, it was a nice looking board. It was heavy too. And he just got like drawer pulls, but like, the industrial looking ones that are like a long U shape.
Yeah.
And put them on like these, like you'd almost find on a file cabinet. And put them on the sides to carry it with. So you can build them. I've seen some spectacular homemade ones. Mine's homemade. The fact it's actually, I don't know if you can see that, that's the old board I made when I was 16 years old on the bottom. That gray.
Yeah.
And I retopped it last year with a new piece of wood because the pedal board was getting bigger. And then just covered it with industrial Velcro. So you can build
okay. So they're all Velcroed on.
Yes. Yeah, there's different ways to do that too. Like, if you don't want to do the Velcro thing, like one student of mine's putting a pedal board together and does not want to Velcro his pedals up. He just isn't his thing. You can get a board called a Holy board. HOLEY. And it's plastic with little, she's up now. It's plastic with holes through it. And it's multi-tiered. There's like different platforms you can get. And you use zip ties to put your pedals down. So there's lots of different boards you can use. One of my pedal boards is literally a piece of wood with a small spacer piece of wood glued to it on the underside to angle it. And it's large enough it could fit inside one of those like camera cases you could buy at Harbor Freight. And I have 2 of those for flying on an aircraft. So I just take them out and I connect them together when I get to the gig. So it's like this board, but in 2 halves.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to, kind of decide on the board eventually, but usually that's after you get to like 3, 4, 5 pedals. Like it's starting to become a hassle to set them up.
Right.
And it would be easier to have them like locked down on something. Second item is you need a power supply. Now on the back of mine, hopefully you can see this strip here, buried under all these cables. This is a Furman plug lock. This isn't something, by the way, everyone's pedal board's unique to them, okay?
Okay.
So, and sometimes it's a product of when you put it together, like that time period and what was available. So, what fit for me for a power supply was this Furman plug lock. I already had them anyway. It's called a plug lock because you put the wall wart or the power adapter in, and it locks down with this clamp. Okay? For me, it worked, and it gave me the protection of a Furman on a platform that I could, kind of hide it under my board and run my power supplies to it. All right? But there's all kinds of, like Voodoo Labs makes them. This has just worked for me. All right? So this board also doesn't fly a whole lot, so I can get away with it. If you're flying, you probably want something smaller and lighter.
Yeah.
So for you guys these days, and I have them in my board now, a really good option, go to Guitar Center, Sweetwater, wherever you shop, Sam Ash, and these one spots are great. So they power your pedals. I'll show you how they do it in a second. I don't want to unplug anything because my board's running off these right now. But it's narrow, it's slender. Okay. And it has at the jack end of it, you can plug in, I have these over here, like a daisy chain. Let's see if I can hold this up for you. You got pepper too. Basically, this gets plugged into the end of the one spot, and then you can plug in 7 to 9 pedals.
Okay.
Into it.
And that comes with it?
Nope, you have to buy it.
Gotta buy that stuff.
Everything you gotta buy separately.
Yeah.
Okay? So, assembly required. So, the one spot you buy by itself, and then you kind of buy what accessories you need. So, like, there's different lengths of these.
Yeah.
There'll be adapters to go with it. So no, it does not come with the one spot. All right. But if, for building a board these days, like I have, you see multiple one spots. So, it's kind of nice because it frees up more slots on your power supply.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point. Let me go ahead and untangle myself. There we go. You have questions so far?
No, I'm good so far.
Okay, cool. All right, so pedalboard, power supply. All right, there's lots of different ones. Like I said, rock board. By the way, if you buy a rock board or a pedal train, they'll have power supplies that work well with those boards too. So rock board will have their own that you could buy. This modular that kind of locks into the board. I think pedal train is a little more like, hey, which one would you like to use with me? Just, apply Velcro and zip ties and you're good to go. Okay?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Our next item is a practical item. You need a tuner. Everybody needs a tuner. Okay? You need to be able to tune silently on the gig. My Cat Vanna White is of no help right now on the tuner. Back to disinterested. All the way on the end, and I can't really stretch this much further without unplugging it, this is a Boss TU2. Okay? And what's going on is I can tune silently. I don't think you'll be able to see the screen. Can you see it lighting up on the screen?
Does it say B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. So what happens is you plug in your instrument. I'm going to do that in a second. And that allows you to silently change instruments on the gig. It allows you to tune without the whole audience hearing about it. Because trust me, that's not pro. Nobody wants to hear that shit. So there's lots of great models of tuners now. Korg Pitch Black, which is really good for basses and extended range basses. I have the TU2 because, again, this was a purchase made at a certain time in a certain era. This was kind of like the working standard. And I'll tell you, if you buy the right gear, this tuner is probably going on 15 years old.
Yeah.
Maybe older. And it's just a tank. Like, it's flowing all over the place. So if you buy the right gear, it'll pay for itself.
Yeah.
So I'm striking my high C string. You can see it kind of flashes.
Yep.
And it gives me the note, lets me know if it's in tune. Again, I'm doing it all silently. You can hear my bass now through the interface. Yep. That's simple.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Now, another person I know used these because it has a bypass jack on it. So there's like 2 jacks on this side. And forgive me for using my foot, but my one hand is the bass, the other hand is the camera. So I'm running out of limbs.
Yeah.
So the top jack is an output jack. That's the one I'm wired into. There's a bottom jack next to it on this side.
Yeah.
You plug into the bypass, your signal will go through the tuner. You'll still see what you're playing, and you can send signals straight through. You won't have the mute ability anymore. But that's useful for is like, let's say you had to play fretless on a gig and you're not really a fretless player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can still be watching.
Yeah. You're probably watching the tuner a lot, but you might actually be able to pull it off with some practice.
Gotcha.
So I know some people have used this tuner that way.
Okay.
Not recommended, but if you had to do it, if it was the difference between getting it and not getting a gig, it might actually work for you. Okay, my B string's a little low. I'm going to tune that up real quick. Largely to avoid pain and suffering on your end. All right, questions so far?
Yeah, actually. So, sorry if this is a dumb question, but I know it's not. But is there a chain of command here? Is the tuner purposely the first thing it runs into?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's important too. Yeah, there is a chain of command, so I'll kind of go through it. So again, we got to go back to something that's really important here. Everyone's pedal board's different. And that also means the chain of command can change.
Right.
There are some good, so there's some very good general rules to follow, and I'm giving you a general, very generalized pedal board build, okay? The tuner should go first. But, and I'm going to give you an order, but let's just say you have two pedals that just like, sometimes you connect them and they ground, like they cause ground loops and things like that, and they just don't play well together. And they create noise in the signal chain. Like I had a Zoom pedal that did not play well with this purple pedal on the end, the bass envelope filter, my sound block. And I had to kind of reverse their order to get the noise minimized. So you're going to have situations like that where you just like two pedals that you just adore, and you may have to break the rules to find placement where they kind of sound good. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so here's the chain of command, generally speaking. Go back over here. Tuner first. Our, shall we call it, like our octavers, pitch, I'll call it pitch modifiers. That's the best way I could call it. So an octaver will generate multiple octaves above or below a note. This is a pitchfork, and this is a more refined version of that. It does like everything. It has all kinds of intervals it'll do. And I've even got an expression pedal for it. So that usually comes next. Then I've got 3 distortion pedals in a row. 2 that are like primary colors, and then 1 that I use like a boost or a wild card. So I just have another tone during the set. Onward from there, I would call my environmental, the pedals that interact with your environment. So reverb, delay, choruses, things like that. I've got an envelope filter on the end. Now normally, your envelope filter would also include your wah pedal, but my wah pedal is coming after this because it's just so large it had to be on the ground. So again, this is like, it's unique to everybody. Okay?
Yep.
I have up top side, I have a Carl Martin bass drive pedal. It's distortion. I actually use this as a boost. And I have a lift up pedal by Hotom. I use that as a boost pedal for the 7-string bass. I have an RC2 loop station, which I actually use as a separate looper from the 300 because I'll generate loops that run independently of each other. Wah pedal, which in a perfect world would probably sit here, like where that Seymour Duncan is, the Vapor Trail. The newest addition is the plus pedal, sitting right there, which is actually a looper as well. And then on the end, I have my RC300, so it captures all the effects that I'm generating in tones off the board and samples them. Okay? This is just my setup. So this is why you see Premier Guitar will do like rig rundown for, a band. And they'll kind of go through their pedal board and their amps and all that good stuff. Okay? Because people are interested in, like, how do people have their stuff set up? All right?
Yep.
Again, this is what works for me. This is what so far has gotten good tone. And it changes. It probably changes every 6 months. So, not this year so much, other than adding a few things. So, this is also an octaver. This one's off my board. This is an old Boss OC2. These are wonderful little pedals. They're discontinued. If you find one, snap it up. They're just going up in value. When I bought mine, it was $80 and I bitched. And now I think they're like 100 to sometimes higher. So they call it the little brown box. So what happens is you can use this to generate sounds of like your bass tone, or even just none of your bass tone, but it'll generate an octave lower, and you have 2 different octaves you could play with. So this is what it looks like. And the middle is how much of your bass tone, your clean sound, you have mixed in with that. Okay?
So it goes down on the floor typically because then you use your feet to hit the stuff. Yep. But when it has knobs and stuff on that, do you just bend over and...
If you have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Usually you kind of like set and forget. And this is also an analog board, so you have to remember there's more than one type of way to do this. So there are pedal boards now, like... Let me backtrack. So analog boards are kind of where this started, okay? And I like how they sound. And it's really good to learn this because it's like learning home recording with a computer without ever having mic'd up an amp. You're not going to understand why it gives you the option to move the mic in front of the virtual amp. You won't even know what's going on or why that's even a thing.
Yeah.
Until you've done it in real life. So an analog board is kind of where this all started. Now we have digital boards like the Helix and the HX Stomp, which is another Helix product. I ordered a Mod Dwarf. That's coming out in the next couple of months. These are digital pedals, like little computers, like my RC300 looper, that contain virtual pedal boards and a lot more signal routing. So I could literally build a whole pedal board for a song and then switch to another pedal board for another song. So I could completely switch out the pedals even.
Right.
Okay, so there are, and you could do that just with the stomp of a foot. Okay. So there are also expression pedals you can hook into these pedals too to help you control the parameters while you're going. So yes, you would have to reach down and do the knobs. I give no, I don't care.
Yeah.
I've done like volume swells and stuff with my looping pedal. It's just part of the performance to me. So, if I kneel down to my pedal board and I'm working with it, sometimes people just get intrigued with what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like scientists getting to work.
Exactly. And I have gotten that description more than once. It's like, oh my God, you're a goddamn mad scientist. I'm like, thank you. Yeah. So if it's part of the vibe, it's part of the vibe. I'm okay with it. So let me angle this downwards. And some people that bothers a lot, though, I know. But from talking to some other performers, they don't want to kneel down and touch things. So, and that's cool. It's just, again, everyone's different. Here we go. Can you see?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let's turn this off. Can you hear?
I can hear.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay. Not too much distortion. I was playing with levels earlier today to get this right for you. There's a little grip off my bass. It's not bad. Okay. Try to get it as clean as possible so we get the most accurate representation of what we got going on here. This is a pitchfork by Electro Harmonics. very chimey. I have it on a really extreme setting so you wouldn't miss anything, shall we say. So it's 2 octaves up. I can control it. There's a source audio expression pedal over here on the other side. I'm picking up and down, bothering the cat.
So what does that pedal do that you,
So this is called an expression pedal. And it's actually just hooked into the side of the pitchfork. So it lets me control it without using my hands.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see there's a cable going to the side of the pitchfork right there.
Yeah.
So what's going on is that just lets me, I can play my bass. I've seen some people use that to emulate a whammy pedal, like on a guitar.
Yes.
You know. So badly adapted right now. There's a blend. I can control how much of my natural bass sound versus the sound of the pitchfork. And I can control the range of the pitchfork. So I just took it down an octave so it wouldn't be as crazy sounding. So now it sounds like a 12-string bass. If I do this, there you go. Now it's a little more 12-string bassish. Like a cheap chirp. Trying to get the distortion out of it. Here's what that's what I'm playing. That's my bass. That's my So that's a fun pedal.
And that's an octave, or you said like that, like the OC20 or like the OC2 as well.
Yeah. So the difference between the OC2 and the pitchfork does a lot of like up. It generates above what you're playing. Okay. Where the OC2, if I had room on my pedal board, I'd probably have them both on there, but it's pretty crazy on there right now. I'm already like, I gotta rethink this again. So the OC2 does octave down. So think of like synth bass with subs.
Yeah.
So that would probably be a really nice flavor, and it tracks well too. And if you dial your dry sound out, okay, like your bass sound, you can actually sound like a synth bass. That's really heavy on the subs.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is. So the good news is, like, for a lot of these pedals is you can go online and you can listen to different demos people have done of them. So that helps people a lot with just generally making decisions before you buy. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Onward? Question? Onward we go. Okay. So the next one in the chain, bring this back down, is, maybe I can leave this on the floor. You're not going to see very much. Let me bring it up. Okay, there we go. My camera woman's just not doing a great job today. All right. We've got an Electro-Harmonix bass soul food pedal right here. Okay, the bright light you could like signal the dark night with. We've got an Ibanez Turbo Tube Screamer, and we've got a Low Customs Overbass Junior. This one's not made anymore, sadly. If you find one, snap it up, because I think there's like 5 in existence, and I'm like serial number 004. All right? So the Soul Food, this is one that's great for guitar and bass. This is actually a guitar pedal, and it's not uncommon for people to do that, though I think they're still, So Doug Wimbish of Living Color has used guitar pedals with his bass sound for a while. I'll play with them sometimes and find something that works really well. And honestly, the bass Soul Food is also designed to be used with guitar. So you could use this distortion pedal with a Les Paul. Okay?
Yep.
I'm going to put this down and try to get you a good view of what's happening down here. So this is this pedal, this pedal, this pedal. Is that clear?
Yeah, definitely.
When I'm moving? Okay, good. Let's turn that off. This is a Soul Food. like a... Yeah. This is a nice kind of like just a very foundational sounding but organic distortion. Has a volume on it so I can get louder. I can control how much drive is in my sound. So I can get harder in terms of like crispy and sounds. Treble, top end, and then my blend of clean versus distorted sound. I also have a 10 decibel cut switch, so I can quickly roll off volume if needed. That's my treble all the way out and back it off a little bit. This is the Ibanez Turbo Tube Screamer, which is, again, a guitar pedal. Do you want to play? This is the low custom. Very crispy. That one's always a bit over the top, but I like that one better.
Yeah, I was going to say that's certainly stronger.
So what's nice with distortion pedals is they each have their own sound, but they're sometimes much cooler when in combination with each other or with another pedal. So there's the soul food. There it is with the Ibanez Turbo Tube Screamer. It's kind of trashy, but it's not unpleasant, if that makes sense. Also, too, that was the pitchfork in combination with the soul food. Okay. Pitchfork by itself. Combination. Let's go down the line. That's with the Turbo Tube Screamer. Pitchfork with the Tube Screamer only. Now with the low custom. Forgive the bad notes. There you go. So that's kind of the fun. Like, you get a pedal, but then there's also exploring the pedal itself, but then there's like, how does it interact with other pedals on my board, and what tones can I get that are going to be unique to me that I can bring to the game? Make sense?
Oh yeah, that's the fun part.
Exactly. All right, if you're good, I'm going to keep rolling, okay? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We're on this end of the board now. See how far my tether goes. Alright, that works. This is a reverb pedal. So when I was talking about interacting with rooms earlier, delay and reverb are things that happen in spaces. So I tend to think of this part of the board as environmental pedals, meaning like your sound interacting inside of an environment. So there's reverb, which is kind of natural in a spacious room. This is a sound blocked 2-dimension reverb. Just kind of playing with it. It's that spring reverb setting. Just without it. Just my bass sound. And with it. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that.
Now that's I would say the use on most gigs is kind of the side. Now the other side gets a little trippier. I have it on plate 1, and there's a second channel on this, so I just kick this side. I always kind of have it set up so this side's doing trippy swells and things like that, versus the first side. You can also run this pedal on a expression pedal. I actually ordered the one over here for this pedal, but then I ended up moving it to the pitchfork because I was having too much fun with it. So I got to get another expression pedal for that. Yay. And actually possibly not, because today there's something called a control pedal that Electro Harmonics just released. That's my neighbor working on a street racer, so can't say.
I have a similar neighbor.
Yeah, I can't say too much bad. He's a great guy, so
yeah. They love to do it at night. After work,
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they got, I'm working on a truck. I just do different times.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a Seymour Duncan Vapor Trail, and this does delay. This is probably my desert island pedal. So for a couple of reasons. Here's my bass without it. It's subtle. You can hear my bass, just even with the delay turned down, it gets thicker. That's without it. I'm trying not to overdrive things on you, so you can hear something accurate. There we go. So I got deeper and thicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of leave that one on a lot just to make my tone sound broader than it is.
I was going to say, so when you say desert island, you mean if you are straight on a desert island, that'd be the pedal you have?
This would be the pedal I take.
Yeah, okay.
This is my RC300. So that's it on its, shall we say, these are some of the good qualities. So there's a straight up just delay. I'm going to mix that with a reverb, because that's a natural pairing.
That's crucial.
Here's just the vapor trail. So there's some cool things you can do with this. We can have a theremin where we're doing a whole lot of love. So I took the delay knob on this side, and I kind of emulated a theremin on the gig. So that's why I love this pedal.
That was sick. When you hear that, you know some crazy shit about to follow.
That's about right. That's about right. That's why it's my desert island. That one, there's a very few on here that just have to go with me. So, okay. Continuing down the way. Are you good, by the way? Are you good?
Good.
Okay, because we're about halfway through the board, but I figured, we have the bag of candy out. Let's get through all of the flavors. This is an envelope filter. And envelope filters essentially play with your tone. So there's the wah pedal, which is also a variety of envelope filter. Let's see, I'll turn the volume up on a little bit. Hopefully it's not too much. Look, this is a Morley. And how it does that sound, that speech sound, you can actually do it with your bass. You just turn the tone control while you're playing. But it does it in a much more extreme way. And it sounds like speech when you use it. Turn it down so I'm not distorting the signal, sorry. Yeah, it's just not going to be happy. Let's try that again. That's about as clean as I can get it. This one has two settings where I can go into a funk wah and make it even more extreme. So I almost sound like Hendrix.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see as I'm opening it, it makes that, like the wah sound we talk about. And backing it off. And then it turns off automatically as soon as it comes back to the return position. You good?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So this does some of that stuff automatically for me. This purple pedal here. The bass envelope filter. Kick that one on. So it does it in a more of a shimmery way. This has got so many settings on it. It's got a phaser, it's got a flanger, it's got an auto wah. There you go, there's your wah. Top one, note one, turning it. Here comes the phaser. Sorry, very loud. We're going to try to get the level so that you don't get a lot of distortion on these tones. There we go. That way you can accurately hear. So I kind of sometimes use those in conjunction, like the phaser along with the wah, to give it a little more shape. The kind of fun thing with the Source Audio stuff is they have these rings you can get that you put on your hand, and it will sync the pedal to your hand motion, and you can control it. Yeah, like if you move your hand, it'll make the envelope filter kind of react with your hand.
That's pretty cool.
It is very cool. So there's some cool stuff. So here's a little more subtle there on this side. All right.
Even this one right here, or you talking about, is that a newer one that kind of lets that thing happen? Because that one looks pretty old. That one looks older.
This one has it.
Really? That's pretty cool.
The port for it's up here.
Oh, okay. So it goes
like a
in
little
like
jack you can plug it in. And they have wireless ones now too on the hand. Trying to get the word. Controller. Hand controller. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on to the chorus pedal, which is pretty much exactly as described. This is a DOD FX62 bass stereo chorus pedal. I know you can read, but it may be hard to see what it actually is model-wise.
Yeah.
This is the Soundblock's bass envelope filter.
Got that one.
The record. This is a Morley dual bass wah.
I like that.
Drunken Vapor Trail. Soundblock's Dimension Reverb. Soundblock's 2, Dimension Reverb with Source Audio. So a chorus kind of does exactly as you would think. A choir is more than one person singing at the same time. Chorus is more than one bass speaking at the same time. I'm going to put this down so I can play it so you can hear it. Okay? So, I'll move it back so you can see more of the board. Yeah, this is one of those pedals that sounds really good on its own. But there's a lot of possibilities when used in conjunction with other things. Here goes the pitchfork. If I have to cut through a solo that the guitar player is doing, not that you want to solo over them, but let's say it's thick and I want to take a solo, and I don't do the back off, where you just kind of have space on your own, I could do a very legato solo that cuts through the mix. add these guys in. Take that out. Chorus and reverb with the delay.
That's money right there.
What's that?
That's money.
Bass without all that. Just with the chorus. Big trail. Reverb. Trippy reverb. So half the fun's kind of sitting around and just figuring out what works well together.
Yeah.
So the bass drive is a wonderful pedal. This one has a tube in it. This is a Carl Martin bass drive. Not cheap at all. I actually have one because this was a Christmas present from a friend of mine. And he just didn't want to use it anymore. So I brought it home, I put a new tube in it, and it fired up and sounded great. And I was like, this is going to add warmth back to my board, and I'll have a nice alternate tone to pull. Now I could also use it as a distortion, but for me it worked better as almost like a tube preamp. But I'll demonstrate the distortion on it too. The thing with tube anything, any tube gear, tube preamps, tube pedals, tube amps, is pick your tubes wisely because that's how your that's how your piece of equipment is going to voice. So when this came in, it had a really cheap tube, a really cheap 12AX7, and the tube is inside that glowing section. The panel that's silver with the glow. Yeah. The tube is in there. And so I had a really cheap pedal, or a really cheap tube, so it was noisy. Like it was just bad. So I put a Electro Harmonix 12AX7 in there because they're very stable for traveling. And it quieted down. And by the way, that originally the point, tubes wear out. So retube, when you start hearing it change, or if you're just not happy with the pedal, throw a new tube in it before you get rid of it, because the problem is probably the tube's worn out. You can also pull the tubes every so often and just put them in a tube tester and see what condition they're in. That's cool. Yeah, so just word of warning on the tube.
Do new ones still come with tubes anymore, or do they kind of not really use them as much anymore?
You have to. They're not as. Yes and no. It depends on what you buy. I have a Nightwalker tube preamp that the laptop is blocking right now. I tried to spin the camera around to get to it. It's hemmed in by gear. And so you can buy new tube equipment easily enough. You can also buy old gear, like I have a Fender Champ over there from 1970. It is if you want to mess with it kind of a thing. If you want that sound in your equipment, it's perfectly fine to go out and get it. Okay, you have to maintain it. It's a little temperamental. Doesn't like extreme cold, for example, extreme heat. Doesn't like being bounced around necessarily. You just got to take care of it. You got to remember it's got pieces of glass in there that can break, that are vacuum sealed. And when they break, you better have some spare tubes on you. Okay? Yep. But otherwise, they're fine. Yeah. The Carl Martin, speaking of that, like it gets, that whole pedalboard gets thrown in the back of the van all the time, and it just keeps ticking. But I also, again, I picked an Electro Harmonix 12AX7 because I know another engineer another guy who works in the industry who builds gear, and he said when we ship all our stuff, we ship with those because they're very stable. And they're not expensive. I think they're like $10, $12 a tube.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like there are tubes that are expensive. I've got some Genlacs over there that were like much more. So, okay. Yeah, let's get to this pedal. Alright, There we go. And yeah, I can see that terribly light. So again, it's in preamp mode right now. So again, it's just trying to be louder, warmer, give me a different tone. Now if I add the gain to it, it becomes a distortion pedal. I'm going to back the level down because again, I don't want to overdrive the looper, which is what's giving us audio for our call. Let's do the stereo again to keep it on. And my gain is only up on like 3 right now. It's just ridiculous how much this has to give. I was on like 2. I keep backing it down. So it's more than adequate just to, like, I leave the gain down half the time and the level up to what's appropriate. Like, I'll get on the gig and test my board, and I'll set the level to what's appropriate for that gig. So I just get a little boost when I turn it on. So it's a little bit warmer. I might do like maybe there. Looks like this could come down in this. But here it's also warmer and kind of a little bit more old school, like an older bass, not a modern voice. Add this to it. Let me take it out of trippy mode. I can actually play it really carefully because I'll overdrive everything. Without all that. This is a Hotone lift up pedal, this next one. Again, it's kind of a boost pedal. I got it because the 7-string bass, there's a lot of good on that bass, but I play so many Spectres, like they all kind of, the whole board's set for basses with a certain loudness level, and Spectres are not known for being demure at all. So the 7-string needed a small pedal that could boost its signal so it could keep up with the other basses when they were on the board. And I wanted to have like one pedal I could kick on to get their levels right. So that's this one. And what's also interesting about it, the little yellow one, look at how small it is compared to everything around it.
Yeah.
So they have these things called travel pedals now, and it's kind of like the Vapor Trail size. If you look at that compared to some of the older pedals like the TU2, or even like the Pitchfork and the Soul Food are tiny next to the Ibanez Tube Screamer, they kind of have what are called travel boards, and they're these, or travel pedals, and they're like scaled down versions of these full size ones that are made for flying in a plane. The chassis aren't as durable necessarily, but it has similar electronics. There's a lot of these smaller pedals. Actually, here's a cool one. A wall pedal is usually the size of that Morley, or even the expression pedal, the Source Foot expression pedal, the Source Audio, expression pedal. They're usually about that big. But now they have travel wall pedals.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So you can see how much weight I just took out of my setup if I use that.
Yeah.
I literally have that for when I have to do travel gigs and fly. I rotate that Dunlop wah into my setup because it weighs like a fraction of what that Morley does. And if you remember, once your baggage weighs so much, you're paying extra to fly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Same thing here. Usually a volume pedal is about the size of the Source Audio expression pedal, or that wah pedal. That's a DoD volume pedal. Scaled down for travel. Okay?
Yep.
So here comes the Hotone pedal. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I do not mean to malign the pedal. It's definitely like hotter. Let's see, I'm gonna try to get it so you can see me kick it on and on. Sorry, my run of cable is just not quite long enough.
No worries.
On the camera. Actually, I wonder if this would work. There we go. Can you see?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great. Alright, that's without it. Go back to with it. It's literally just a boost.
Yeah.
Like on my 12 or on the 7th string, it's just quiet enough. It actually lifts it up so it's about equal with the Spectre. Next is an RC2 loop station. So it just samples you're playing on the fly. Okay. I've technically got 3 loopers in this whole setup. This is one of them. The other is the RC300 over here. And the new one is this plus pedal, which I just got. This is actually technically a looper. So, do you know what a looper does?
You said, do I know? Sorry, your voice went weird.
Yeah, sorry, hang on. I'll explain why. There we go. I was changing settings on the RC300. Do you know what a looper does?
Yeah, I think when you kick it, it starts, and then when you kick it, it ends, and it just loops that section of audio, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if I wanted to play like a blues, hopefully I don't have anything weird on this setting. There you go. I can play over it. So I can stack loops and all kinds of stuff like that. I can turn them on, turn them off. Okay, so that's easy. They've been around long enough. That's no big deal. I can also erase them on the fly like I just did. So the RC2 does the same thing, okay? It's just in a smaller box. Mm-hmm. It's an older model. Like I said, I have 2 of them because I'll sometimes transition between songs by creating a separate loop on the RC2. And then I'll fade out the RC300 while the RC2 is still playing. That way there's like a feeling of a music that's continuing while I start a new song with the RC300. But now we got this guy. This is a plus pedal. And this is a different looper because it plays with the beginning and the ending of the note to create the loop. So where this one you just record, this one you play, record, and then wait to see what blooms. There you go. That's what it does. Now I'm going to put it on an infinite setting with a faster rise. So this should be interesting. I'm still getting used to this one. So it's kind of like we've crossed between a looper and a freeze pedal. So this right now is just clean, not adding anything to it. So you can imagine, it's still going. If I double tap it, it'll remove it. I can do single.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it does a couple of things that are interesting. I don't know if you can tell from where you're at, but the light has different intensities on it. So when it's halfway down, the volume it'll sample at will be 50%. When it's all the way down, the volume it samples at is 100%. So I can actually do different loops with different volume levels with the pedal. So I can stack a chord. Let's try that again. of these ideas really quickly.
That's a trippy one. That's cool.
Yeah, I figured with that and the vapor trail, I'm pretty much, set for desert island life.
Yeah.
That and my RC300 and plus pedal. So, yeah, that's my board. Okay. Then everyone's board will be different though, and you'll find pedals you'll like, and you'll find pedals that you may find the same concept done by several different companies. So. They kind of do that so they have their version of that in their line. But sometimes they voice slightly differently, If you pick well, they tend to accrue in value. That doesn't mean they always do, don't get me wrong. Like if you go buy a Metal Zone pedal, it's probably still going to be worth like $25 when you pawn it. So, but like the Plus pedal, one of my students was selling it. And he let it go for $250, and I really wasn't gonna buy it. And I saw it was at $250. Was like, well, you can't get them for less than $329, and they're only really gonna, they're still making them. They're not collectible yet, but
no, I know that battle. Battle.
I could flip it right now for $300, and so I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. The OC2 I could probably get 100 for right now, or 125. Some pedals go up fast and become very collectible quickly. Yeah. I have a rack unit upstairs I bought for $50. It's worth 300 now. So.
Yeah, I have a rack mount sampler that I bought a while ago that I bought for 400, and for some reason right around COVID too, but it hasn't seemed to back down. But it spiked up to I bought mine for 400 just to get it, because that's what they were at that time. They had like $1,000 now last time I checked. So I was thinking about getting another one, because of course, the older stuff is only going to get harder and harder to find and go up in value, and you need some, if I can guarantee that I'll take good care of it, it's only going to be infinitely, whatever. And, it's just like, man, some of them old audio equipment that stands the test of time.
Yeah.
It's like investing in gold, because it'll be worth it down the road eventually if you even end up getting rid of it. But
well, yeah, and then there's also stuff that goes up and down like gold does too. Literally, like I had one pedal. When I was working at Sam Ash, there's a certain. The nice thing for employees was they'll do buyback at what they would do for everybody. But if you take that buyback and flip it to store credit, they give you more, like more in the credit. But then I had an employee discount to play with. So it was like, wow, okay, this is a win. I get the employee discount, but I also get, if I bump to credit, it gets valued as more.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get a pedal at a yard sale or something, and you just kind of watch the market on it. And when you saw it close high on eBay, tips for you, by the way. You may not be able to play the employee card, but I can give you the rest of the tip. If you saw it close high on eBay or Reverb, or both at the same time, that was when you had to go to Sam Ash to sell it. Or you could sell it directly yourself on both those platforms. But if you just knew it was good to go, you could go sell it at a music store then, because it would get more than it did maybe 3 months ago.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
Del, do you have any questions?
I'm pretty good. All that isn't completely new to me. So
I can actually take these off because you're at a distance where I can see you.
I got a good grasp on that kind of stuff now.
I would say that the last thing I probably left out, and I'll make it quick, is if you're building your own pedal board, obviously you need patch cables and instrument cables. There are kits you can get that you can build your own custom lengths of cables. So you could cut it to what you need, strip the ends, and sometimes they're solderless as well. So if you're good at soldering, you already know what to do. You could literally take an instrument cable and just buy new ends and do the thing. But for folks who aren't good at that, they do make kits, like $70, $80, and you could custom build all the cording.
Nice.
So, okay. And that's useful. Trust me, there's been a few times I'm like, oh, that cable just has to run from there to there, and I've got 6 extra inches. Yeah. So there's actually a loop between two of the pedals.
Yeah.
Like shoved in there.
Together. Yeah. Tucked down.
Yeah. Tucked down, shoved down there so no one sees it. So.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff. I've had LED lights on mine on the underside. There's so many ways to be creative with this. So
Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
yeah, sweet, my friend. Well, are you questions answered?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything I need to know about pedalboards answered.
Fantastic. Okay, so I see you again next
Monday.
Monday.
Well, Friday.